very near Ground Zero, and obviously that was a really important place and part of my life, and defining. And as a result of that, probably, I have a real fascination with places that people once were, but are no longer. So I have a poem about a ghost ship. I have a poem about Hiroshima. Obviously, lots of different reasons for people to not be a place anymore. And I got to travel to South Africa not too long ago. And for those of you who are not fresh on your South African history, the apartheid government was a racially segregated system, mandated government system in South Africa that lasted all the way until 1994, y'all. That's how long it took to dismantle South African apartheid. And I was in South Africa visiting Cape Town, and there's a part in Cape Town that's called District 6. And District 6, before apartheid, was this incredibly diverse, magical neighborhood where there were people of all different backgrounds, all different walks of life. And during the apartheid government regime, they eventually decided, you know what, we're going to clear everybody out of here that's not white, and it's going to be a whites-only territory. So they evicted everyone from their homes, bulldozed it to the ground with the intention of building it back up into this pretty all-white neighborhood. What actually ended up happening is they lost money and attention, and they never built it up. So instead, they evicted everyone, bulldozed it to the ground, and left it there. And nowadays you can go visit, and there's a museum there. And so I was learning a lot about it, and it stuck with me, and it's a story that I've carried for a very long time. And I recently, in the wake of what's been going on in this country, I recently learned that currently in the United States, we incarcerate a larger percentage of our black population than South Africa did during apartheid. And that is a statistic that we absolutely cannot ignore any longer. And the criminalization and violence against black bodies is something that we all need to fight against. So I've been thinking about that a lot, and this poem has come back around for me to hold on to. Chochovosa, heyan kule zuntaba, Simela sepume Zimbabwe, when uyabaleka, kule zuntaba, Simela sepume Zimbabwe. Nur Ibrahim had 50 homing pigeons. He lived in District 6 at the center of Cape Town. Nur Ibrahim lived in District 6 at the center of Cape Town, where there were 12 schools, and Holy Cross Church, and Aspeling Street Mosque, and the Jews on Harrington Street, with the immigrants and the natives, the Indians and the Malayas, the blacks and the coloreds. Nur Ibrahim lived in District 6 at the center of Cape Town, where there was Beckenstadt Bookstore, and Parker's Corner Shop, where you could buy paraffin for the stove, fish oil, bull's eyes and almond rock, where you could walk down to the public bath, pay a ticket, get a 15-minute shower, and find yourself in between the businessmen and the gangsters bathing side by side, right there at the corner of Clifton and Hanover Street. Nur Ibrahim lived in District 6 with 50 pigeons and his family. Now, take a city, Cape Town, divided into 12 districts, one of them, District 6, at 150,000 people over time. Now divide that by the Group Areas Act of 1950, and you wind up with what? I'll give you a hint. It's the same as if you were to divide by race. So you're left with a remainder of one apartheid government and one Declaration of 1966, which stated that from here on out, District 6 would be recognized as a whites-only territory. So, no more Hanover Street with the thick smell of curry from Doubt's Cafe. No more Jandra's Groceries or Waynick School uniforms or Maxim's Sweeteries and the sounds of children, laughter, merchants, buses, song. No. After all of that, you are left with only bulldozers, leveled buildings, raised land, broken glass and brick. Not even phantoms will haunt this ghost town, because even their floating figures are not white enough. Nur Ibrahim moved the 10 kilometers to Athlone. He packed up his pigeons in their cages and left District 6 at the center of Cape Town. He left Peninsula Maternity Ward, where dozens of colored babies are born every year, and the soda fountain, where you could sit for hours and watch the women bring their laundry down to the public wash house 3 times a week. He left his house on Caledon Street. Noor Ibrahim left his home on Caledon Street in District 6, at the heart and soul of Cape Town, and moved the 10 kilometers to Athlone. And he lived there for weeks, driving sometimes past the empty pit of land where District 6 no longer stood. And the winds blew hard, and they swept through the dust and the dirt and the broken glass until every blade of grass bent beneath the weight of what was no longer there. After 3 months, the droppings at the bottom of the pigeon cages had become 3 layers thick. So Noor Ibrahim decided it was time to let the birds fly free, so they could learn to fly their way back. And he knew that not all of the pigeons would return that night, and he knew that the next morning some of those cages might not be as full, but he also knew that sometimes gravity can become a little too comfortable. So that morning, he opened the doors on the cages, and the winds that swept through Cape Town swept through and lifted all 50 pigeons up into the air into a cloud of feathers, as if to say, it does not matter how long we have been kept in cages. It does not matter how strong your gravity is. We were always meant to fly. That night, Noor Ibrahim returned from work. He turned off the car. He went around to the back of the house and cried out in pain, because there in front of him were the empty pigeon cages lined with droppings and feathers, but no pigeons, because not a single one of them had returned back to him. And the man who had watched them level his house to the ground without shedding a single tear suddenly felt his mind grow fuzzy, and his ribcage felt as empty as the ones the birds had abandoned, so he got back into the car to take a drive and try and clear his mind. And as he drove down the long streets of Cape Town, the wheel moved beneath his hands, and he found himself on the abandoned roads of District 6. And as he reached Caledon Street, he slowed to a stop, because there, on the empty plot of land where his house once stood, were pigeons. All 50 of them, sitting amongst the dust and the dirt and the broken glass, looking up at him as if to say, where is our home? South Africa, we sing a song of strength. We go on like a rolling train forever. We never let gravity become too familiar, because we were always meant to fly. Chocholosa, hey ankule zintaba, simela sepume Zimbabwe, when uyabaleka, kule zintaba, simela sepume Zimbabwe.